I better turn that off.
What the hell was
Hello
that?
and welcome to From Dial Square to Where. I'm Andrew Dinkley Gooner. I'm your host, as you all know. And tonight we've got Stan the Man. Say hello, Stan.
Hi, Andrew. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on tonight.
No problem at all. He's in lockdown in Vancouver, which is great. Glenn, lockdown in New York
Well, yes,
with the Wookiees.
that's why I'm on your show today, Andrew. Anything to get away from the wife and kids right now. Anything.
Absolutely don't blame you at all. Darren, not in Delhi, but in.
I'm not in lockdown either. I'm enjoying it. I just
Stansted,
come back
yeah?
from the pub.
Something like that.
What? Did you just say you just got back from the pub?
Yeah, of course. You have to go and still do business, didn't you? Meet people and carry on. We sort of sat a little bit further apart than we normally do. And instead of ringing a bell when it's time to leave, the barman just sneezes. And we all just get out of there. It's a new thing. Obviously, I'm not going as often as I normally do.
Well,
I've been cutting
you've
out
got to
lunchtime.
make the most of it while you can, mate, because who knows how long it's going to go on for. Mm-hmm. And you got the corona. That's great.
Yeah.
And Dan, how are you? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Surviving. Yeah,
really good to have you back on. I haven't had you on board for a little while now, so it's great to have you back.
cheers.
So, like I was just saying off the line, we're not going to go too in depth about the serious issues that we're going through now. Obviously, everyone knows what we're going through, and it's a bloody nightmare. But yeah, we have got the serious issue about the season and what's going to happen there. Like I said, we're not going to dig too deep into that, but I've been listening to a few podcasts, and it's bloody hell. The reason I'm not going to go into it in too depth is it's bloody depressing. You know, what's going on. It's very, very worrying about the football pyramid, and you know, we cannot forget about the teams that are in. You know, we've got about 7 divisions, I believe, mainly in the UK in the pyramid, and the teams that are at the bottom of that and working their way up. It's very, very difficult for them all, and it's a very, very sad time for them all. But there is one issue about getting this season finished, and whatever happens to the Premier League filters all the way down all of these 7 divisions, even below League 2. And it's going to affect every single team in those leagues. So, I mean, the main thing I thought of initially, which I've changed my mind on, was getting it all, you know, voided, you know, just null and avoid the whole seasons. But the more I think about it and the more I listen about all the details about it, it's just not going to be possible. I think we're going to have to play this season out. So let's just work round. I'm going to go round anti-clockwise as you look on the screen. To you, Dan, first. I mean, just briefly, as I say, I don't want to be too in depth about it, but what are your thoughts about the season and whether you think it's realistically got to be finished?
Yeah, I was thinking you have to finish the season, basically. Like, I don't think, there's any other option really other than finishing it, and then you finish it when you can finish it, and then whatever changes that might mean for future seasons, you deal with that 2021 2021 season. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like you finish this season whenever you can, and then you make it a shorter 2020-2021 season, because then at least you can plan properly what that season looks like, whether that is 19 games, something like that, everyone just plays each other once, something like that, and then you do the Euros at the end, reset for the season after that. Otherwise, if you can't do that, then I think you do have to just void it and then start again from next year. I think those are the only 2 options that I have, really.
Darren, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, do you remember? I mean, one for the teenagers
the war.
here.
No, I don't remember the war.
Do you remember Dallas? Do you remember that season where Patrick Ewing woke up and he dreamt the whole series? I've got no issue. I've got no issue with cancelling this one. This has been our worst season for ages.
That's exactly what I thought.
It's been absolutely terrible this season, hasn't it? It's been terrible. Yeah. So we're in the worst position we've ever been. Let's just wake up and pretend it was all a dream. We'll start again.
Yeah,
we'll start
exactly.
Again. We'll have to Unai Emery back, obviously.
I put on Twitter.
You just changed everybody's mind.
I put on Twitter that if we could put a request in now to have last season cancelled as well, so then we could have no Unai Emery in the history of Arsenal.
I mean, look, who's
That'd
it
be
going to
great.
upset the most? Liverpool fans and Leeds fans.
Oh my God! Would you get to my turn?
Sorry, Glenn, but that's true, isn't it? Go on, Glenn. It's Liverpool fans and Leeds fans. Fuck them.
Exactly.
Got to keep my noise down because my wife's obviously a scouser.
I am not used to being the voice of reason. I'm used to being the guy cursing and carrying on. You people are crazy. Cancel the season. Deny Liverpool the title. That's absolutely cruel. If first of all, we did see.
You're being sarcastic.
No, I'm not being sarcastic, you old fart. There was a little bit of good news when the Euros moved to next year. They said so the leagues can all try to finish their seasons. So there's a little bit of a possibility that we can't finish this season with the Euros moving. If not, if the season is suspended, Liverpool get the title. The bottom 4 teams in the Premier League have a playoff to see the 3 teams that are dropped. How you work the Champions League, I have no idea. I guess, top 4, since the season was suspended at that point. And if Manchester City's really not allowed to bribe their way out of it, then the 5th place team. That's reasonable. Stan, you?
What is it that you just said, Glenn?
What?
You said not giving it to Liverpool was it absolutely spiteful?
No, it would be absolutely cruel.
Then I'm absolutely cruel.
Oh my God!
I think that's on a serious note. I think the easiest thing to do is to give the Premier League to Liverpool. But then if you do that, you've got to go all the way down the leagues and sort all of that out as well. And there are some teams which are probably not far off the team that's ahead of them, a couple of points, and you can't just award them, their league's cup as well. So seriously, although I want to laugh at Liverpool as well because I'm a little bit spiteful like that. I think I'm a little bit with Darren there, but I would seriously avoid it because I just don't see how you can just give it to Liverpool, restarting the season as well and having it in 2 bits. I don't know about that either.
All right, I'm asking all of you guys to look into your hearts right now and give an honest answer. And give an honest answer, damn it! If it was Arsenal up there kicking ass and taking names, and it's just an eventuality, it's going to happen. Would you be the same way? Look in your hearts, just for a second. I know, especially you guys in the UK hate to admit when maybe you're a little bit wrong. If it was Arsenal up there, would you say, "Oh, season over, F you"?
Yeah, of course we would.
I think that's not the point, though, right? Is it? No one's saying that Liverpool don't deserve it. They're not going to win it, and that kind of thing.
But you're not giving it to them. You're saying season void.
But I think the point is, though, right? There's just so much else up in the air that if you award Liverpool the title, then everyone else that could positively be affected by the season ending here will have a stronger argument to be awarded their position, right? Because Chelsea, on form, there's no way that they're going to finish in the top 4, but they're 4th now, right? So if you give Liverpool the title, Chelsea are going to say, well, we're 4th, you gave Liverpool the title, we're going in the Champions League. And you can't do that when there's only 2 points. Aston Villa, game in hand, that if they win, they're out of the relegation zone. Why would they say let's take the league as it is? There's just too much at stake, I think, that comes with giving Liverpool the title.
I know.
To answer your question, Glenn,
the points, the difference at the top doesn't matter because they haven't mathematically won the league. So why would you?
They're in free fall. Andrew, they're in free fall. They're in free fall at the moment.
I'm exactly right though. No, they've lost 4 out of the last 6. They've lost 4 out of the last 6 games. You cannot say that they are. You can't just award them. It's like a 10,000 meter runner, right? Bro, say like one of the Kenyans who's like in the Olympics, he's 2 laps ahead in the 10,000 meters, and he gets to the final straight, 100 meters from the final straight, and he falls, or he does his hamstring and falls over or whatever, and he can't finish the race. Do you say, "Oh, it's all right, just give him the gold medal because he's near enough there"?
To answer Glenn's question, right? If Arsenal was in the same position as Liverpool and this was happening to us, yeah, I'll be honest with you, Glenn. Of course, I'd be upset and gutted about it, especially if we were playing the kind of football that Liverpool are playing. But if they just gave us the title, I'd always have a huge part of me that would be like, well, this doesn't really count. No one else is going to say that it counts. Maybe I might find some other Arsenal supporters that may say it counts. But other than that, you know, there's always going to be that cloud. So, yeah, I'd be upset about it, but I don't know if I'd want it. I'd want it in these circumstances.
If it was Arsenal, I would expect it because that's just so Arsenal. You know, that season.
We're used to disappointment.
It's true, though, isn't it? If anything is going to happen like that, it happened to us. So it's just just mad that it's Liverpool.
I'm not going to argue anymore about it because I'm not changing your mind. So it's just a waste of time. And you're not changing mine. So go ahead. What's next? What's next, Andrew?
Well, there's a couple of questions that's come up in the comments. Has everyone got the comments up so you can have a look at the questions as they come through as well?
There's a few. Or is that from last week?
No, it's from today. So first of all, hi Tony, hi Alonso.
Was anyone listening? Who's listening to the podcast at the moment? Talk sport. What have they got to talk about? It's fantastic.
Well, in fact, I need to explain. That's what the title of the this podcast is about. Co-video killed the radio star. That's all about Adrian Durham because I hope he gets fucking sacked because he's got nothing to talk about. The cunt.
Did you hear him on there today? Right, he really grinds my gears. That geezer. He was doing a top 5 of the greatest Dutch players, right? And he had Wesley Sneijder in there ahead of Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp did not make the 5.
I would turn it off right there, then and there.
You know what he's trying to do?
7 years ago, yeah.
Well, that's exactly what the title's about anyway. Fucking Adrian Durham. So hopefully the COVID-19 will put an end to fucking Talk Sport and Adrian Durham. So anyway.
Talk Sport. I've been listening to it. It's more like Talk Shite Radio now.
I don't listen to it no more. I listened to it for about 4 years. But yeah, I hate that bloke. But anyway, Tony Turner, what's the thoughts about playing matches behind closed doors at training grounds instead of the stadiums? The NBA is considering playing matches at practice facilities behind closed doors.
Yeah, but there's a difference between the NBA and the Premier League. The Premier League crowd is half the fun. I would only accept that if they're
the Emirates lately.
But you made me lose my train of thought, which is very easy to do. If a last resort is, and that's the only way with no crowds, fine. But I hate that idea. I hate it.
Yeah, I would hate it as well, if I'm honest. But
I mean, on a serious note, that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Is that these players? I mean, look, if a team's got 8-9 players out, then they can't play a fixture. But if these are the healthiest and fittest people on the planet, in theory, so they're not going to suffer and die from this. If they're going to stop crowds going, then yeah, most of the audience is on television anyway. You know, I mean, it is nice. Let's paint those murals like we used to have at the North Bank when they rebuilt the North Bank. Yeah. So we can just put up pictures of people. I mean, half the time you wouldn't notice if there wasn't any crowd at the Emirates.
That was really embarrassing.
I think as long as they broadcast the games, I wouldn't mind that at all.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just like watching an away game. It would just be like watching it at a quiet stadium. You know?
Did any of you guys watch the Champions League, the last round? That was
that had no crowd. I saw highlights. I saw highlights, and it was odd hearing the players yelling, hearing the ball actually go into the net. It was really weird.
Yeah, it was surreal, to be honest. But I think they do need to get this season finished some way somehow. So I would be in support of that if they can make it work.
My serious my serious suggestion is one that I heard today, and it makes the most sense, is that you have until... we've got an issue with what Tony's mentioned as well in the comments about players' contracts finishing on the 30th of June, etc. But if we can work our way around that, I'm sure that's the least of the worries, I think. The good workable option was to work through until Christmas, if needs be, to finish this season, and then have the new season starting in January, which would then finish next December in time for the tournament.
Oh, good God. No, whole butterfly effect there. You'd have to probably cancel the FA Cup.
Yeah, I know. But it makes most sense because you've got, who knows when we can start again. And setting some kind of time limit on it now is ridiculous. Even setting it for Christmas is ridiculous, to be honest.
Look,
however, if it's something to work towards, then you've got the whole season, which will then finish before the World Cup.
I know we haven't got anything to talk about if we don't talk about this, but because we really don't know what's going to be happening in 4 weeks' time, or 6 weeks' time, or 8 weeks' time, it's almost like an impossible situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they've cancelled it only for the next 2-3 weeks. You know what I mean? And it'll probably be cancelled for another 2-3 weeks. It might be cancelled for 6 months. But in 3-4 weeks' time, they might say, okay, we're going to start again now. And we just squash all the games together and there's nothing to talk about, is there?
Yeah.
I think they should do it differently. I think they should have all the mascots racing.
This is what we need to move on to. So let's have some different options, all right? I've heard about an option of all the Premier League teams nowadays have got an esports team, haven't they? What about having it in esports, playing the matches as they were supposed to be on the calendar and televise the FIFA games?
Well, I was like, what the hell is he talking about?
Do you know what? As well, what would be funny is if you don't use the esports teams, but use the managers of the team, and which managers would actually be the best at FIFA. Can you imagine Roy Hodgson playing FIFA? I reckon we'd win because we've got the youngest manager. He probably does play FIFA.
Andrew.
Well, that'd be a good option. But, and this is the only one. The rest will go to you, but I promise you. But this is my best option. And I mentioned this about I don't know, a few weeks ago on the podcast. Like the tournaments that under nines have, when they're all got these little pitches set up all over the place on the playing field, and they play little games of five-a-side, which are about 5 minutes each way, and then and it's like a tournament all done in a day. Do you remember those when you were a kid? I'd love to imagine if all the Premier League teams sent 5 players and they had one of those little tournaments at Wembley, all done in one day. I think that'd be awesome. To sort out the rest of the league. What do you reckon?
Oh my
I
god!
think the mascots racing is more.
No, they should just have like a one-day tournament, right? One-day tournament, completely knockout. Yeah. And every single match is golden goal.
Yeah, well, that'd be good.
I'd sign up for that.
Wow.
That would be good, yeah. Or,
and then if there's any draws, they do that thing that the MLS used to do with the run-ups for penalties.
Oh yeah, from
the halfway line.
I love that.
Oh, well, you loved them. Oh, that was awful.
No, that was great. I think much better.
That's way better than the penalty shootout.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Much more exciting and skillful as well. And imagine if when it gets down to the goalkeepers having to do it, like if everyone scores. Bloody hell! Some of the goalkeepers. Imagine Almunia doing that or something, having to dribble it from the halfway line. He'll fall over his own fucking shoelaces, isn't he? But yeah, come on, who's got some better options? It's just some fun ways of finishing the season if you can't play football.
I don't know. What about each team picks a player and have like a jousting competition on horseback with their long poles?
Fantastic!
I'd watch it.
You know, that made me think that. Do you remember on Cup Final Day they used to have It's a Knockout?
Yeah,
Cup Final It's a Knockout, and then you'd have the players taking part.
Yeah,
filling up a bucket of custard. It'll be fun.
Those outfits with the huge heads.
Oh yes, yeah. Imagine if they had an Ursel head, massive Ursel head with the eyes on the side.
Forget the
kind of praying mantis.
Forget the football. We've just come up with a really good program. You've heard it here first.
American Gladiators. They used to do that game Atmosphere when they had to be like in a big hamster ball.
Oh yeah.
You've got me thinking now.
What about remember those big inflatable things that you put yourself inside and your legs are out the bottom and you play football like that when you bump into each other and you go flying? Have you seen that?
That'll be hygienic as well.
Very good point. Very good point. Sabutio's a good option. Yeah. The trouble is, most of the players nowadays wouldn't have a clue what Sabutio is, would they?
True.
What about it is FIFA for those of us born in the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like Roy Hodgson playing FIFA. What about if one player from each team has to be nominated to go into a sumo wrestling competition? and it's all not. We've got
And then
Socrates.
Kolasinac all day.
Oh no, Socrates. I reckon his face. You can imagine him in a nappy.
Yeah.
He's got that stare, isn't he? He's got that stare. Well,
I bet
manager,
Guendouzi would probably volunteer though for that, wouldn't he? He'd have his the first
Actually,
one
yeah.
to put his hand up.
definitely. He whips his top off at any opportunity, doesn't he? And he probably still wears nappies.
Where's
What
this
about-
abuse of my man Guendouzi come from?
No abuse at all.
He
I
probably
think that's
legend.
crap, doesn't he? He's the first one in there. If there's any aggro, he's the first.
Love
He's
it.
the
Yeah,
youngest.
love it.
He's the youngest, but he's the first one in there.
We've got Tony Turner said, "What about a Ninja Warrior competition?" Oh, that. What about Takeshi's Castle?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember Takeshi's Castle? That's nutcase. Madness. Did you ever heard about that, Glenn?
No.
Nor me.
Oh, you missed
That was a
out.
great show.
What was that show back in the day as well? Where sports stars of the day had to do different sports.
Oh,
and they-
superstars.
Superstar.
Yes.
That was
Oh, that'd be
fantastic.
legendary.
That was,
Kevin
Oh,
Keegan
yeah.
on the drop
On the
handlebar
bike.
racer.
Oh, yeah. Still makes me wince now.
Alan Jacks. Do you remember him?
Yeah,
With
cool.
Tate, Daley Thompson.
There was always a swimmer on there that
Good
you never
shout,
heard
by
of
the
as
way.
well.
That's that was a great show, that wasn't it?
I know. I remember, and I don't know if I'm making this up in my head, but I remember Kevin Keegan being on that.
Yeah, he had a crash on the racer, didn't he? He had a really bad crash on the racer bike.
Can you imagine them doing that nowadays? Like actual Premier League footballers taking part in a show like that?
No.
That's madness.
No, they wouldn't do it now. Insurance wouldn't let them.
I know. You see, like, I don't know, Jack Grealish on the BMX or something, or swimming the channel or something like that. That'd be excellent. They should bring that back, definitely. But yeah,
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
have a look on YouTube.
The last two UK shows I watched are Killing Eve and Downton Abbey. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
What the fuck did you watch Downton Abbey for?
Can we pretend I didn't say that?
No, that's gonna be brought up time and time again tonight.
So, yeah, this show, what are you talking about? Go.
Have a
please.
look for it on YouTube. It's a show called Superstars. I think it was from back in the 70s and 80s. Amazing. And there's that show as well where they were on the dirt bikes. Was it Kickstart? Do you remember Kickstart?
No.
Oh, Stan does. Stan knows what
Peter
I'm on about.
Purvis.
Yeah.
That was awesome as well.
Why do we all feel embarrassed that we remember Peter Purvis?
No, he's a legend.
He's a legend.
I'm in the same boat as Glenn. I think all of these shows are before my time.
Oh no, I'm an old fart, Dan. I don't live in the UK, so I don't know these shows. I don't understand how Stan sees all these shows living in Vancouver. I thought they just 24/7 hockey there. How are you watching all these shows?
Yeah, but I've only been here just under a year, so this is
okay.
childhood.
The actual accent, Glenn, gives it away a little bit. That he's
Oh,
actually-
Shut up! Shut up! Stan knows I don't listen when he talks.
So, Stan, if you've only been there for just under a year, how are you finding living abroad being an Arsenal fan?
I really enjoy it. We have a pub that shows all of the games. It's like the Arsenal pub in Vancouver. We share it with Celtic supporters. So if there's a game which is like a 12 o'clock kickoff in the UK, for us here, that's like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And they open the pub. And, they have coffee and donuts there for us. We leave them a tip. And I started going down there because when I first moved over here, the first few games I was just watching it, on a stream on the sofa. And I thought it would be a great way for me to actually meet other people was by finding out if there was a pub that showed Arsenal games. And I've met some nice people down there.
Yeah, fabulous. Couldn't agree more. I mean, that's those who know my history. It's the same. I've just moved back from 4.5 years in India. So I was in the Arsenal Delhi Supporters Club. That's why my handle's at the Delhi Guna.
Cool.
It was a fabulous time. I did a podcast there for 3 years with Indian Arsenal fans. It was a fabulous experience. Glad to be home though. But
that was probably the real reason that I started doing the Gooners in Vancouver post-match reactions, because I thought, You know, the first few times I went down this pub, everyone's sitting in their little groups, and I walk in, right, and I don't know where I'm supposed to sit. You know, everyone's like staring at you, and you can't walk up to people enjoying them at a table going like, hi. But I started doing the reaction videos, so I was using that as a way to talk to people and say, I'm doing it for this channel. You know, come and talk to me about the game, and it was a good way for me to meet other Gooners and not seem like the creepy guy just like telling me. Hello, can you talk to me?
I got the patent on creepy guy. Gee, you guys are so worldly. I watch Arsenal games in my basement. At halftime, it's Pornhub and Rub One Out, and second halftime, that's what I do. So everybody probably just left at once that was watching. Oh my god! Another thing. Can we pretend I didn't say?
Oh well, I'm not sure about that. I hold everything against you, Glenn. You should know that by now.
I'm not sure what's worse, knocking one out at half time or the Downton Abbey reference. I'm really
I think the Downton Abbey one.
At least halftime is manly, right?
Yeah, exactly. As long as you know, have a quick one, gob on the floor, knock back a pint, you'll be fine. Tony Turner says, let's make high dives the competition. Spurs would finally get a trophy, even with the injured Kane. Very good point. Ryan's here. Hello, Ryan. And he said that he's seen the Kevin Keegan incident on that show. He just got up and had half a pint of beer after it, apparently. I can't remember that.
It was horrible because he had those really, you know, those like 70s tight shorts that they used to wear. He's on one of those drop handlebar racer bikes, you know, where your feet are in the actual clips. He goes straight over the handlebars and like all the skin just hanging off of his leg. I bet his football manager was watching and wincing.
Men in short shorts, just one of the few things wrong with the 70s, like the shorts they wore in the NBA in the 70s. Whew.
Do you remember Perry Groves, the way he used to wear his shorts? He really had high, short shorts, Perry Groves.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
you could almost see his ball bag hanging out the side.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Or when the manager from the sideline shouted out "nice tackle," he wasn't necessarily.
Well, why do you think that they called Tony Adams a donkey? You know, leave that one with you. It wasn't the way he played. But yeah, Ryan, Tony said, did you do the interviews with a luchador mask on?
No. That was well before the luchador mask days.
Right, boys. I've actually got to shoot off now. But thanks for having me on the show, mate. And I'll be happy to come on whenever you want me.
Definitely, and just give a quick shout out to your podcast. Excellent podcast.
Oh yeah, it's right there, boys. Follow Tapping Football on all platforms. It's myself, a Spurs fan and a United fan, giving you weekly opinions about the Premier League and European football as well. So yeah,
it's really, really good. It's excellent. I recommend it.
Nice to meet
you. Yeah,
cheers, Andrew.
No problem. I'll speak to you very soon.
Thanks
for coming on. Right. Take care, mate.
See, now you scared him away, Andrew, with all your balls talk.
I know. Well, it's a very good podcast. If you haven't listened to it, just give it.
It is. It absolutely is.
The guys are very, very knowledgeable. They give some excellent analysis. I think it's spot on. About the Premiership completely, not just obviously Arsenal and so on. But yeah, and. Like I say, thanks very much, Tony, for these comments. Mr. Arsenal, he's going to be back on his channel in the next few days. He's had a bug, so hope you're on the mend, Ryan. You and Stan must have had the same brush. You're both out for about 3 weeks. That's what Tony was saying. So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to quickly go back onto the actual situation that we're in, because I am more concerned about the lower leagues, because the more you hear about it, the more, because they literally survive week to week, a lot of these clubs in the lower leagues. And I know this is an Arsenal podcast, so we don't care about that sort of stuff, but I actually do. And I hope that they're going to get some kind of support, because like I said, everything that's going to happen in the Premier League, and everyone's waiting to find out what's going to happen. Who knows when that's going to be announced? Because no one knows what's going to happen. The time schedule about how long this is going to go on, and blah blah blah. But the more that these teams aren't playing, and the more that they are not getting any match revenue, I can't even begin to imagine how many of these clubs are going to go out of business.
I did hear something on the radio earlier that the FA had donated. I can't remember the amount, but it was like a lot to WHO, you know, the World Health Organization, as part of some package thing. And I thought that's really good of them. But I do hope that they're also allowing, you know, putting funds aside for teams that are lower down, that are going to, you know, there's people that work at some of these teams lower down, you know, and if they're saying that we ain't playing no games, we don't actually need the groundsman, we don't need the people that work in the laundry department, you know, these people, like most people, right, you know, live from paycheck to paycheck, you know, everybody has vast amount of resources saved up, and a lot of people live in rented accommodation. So it's all right. It's all well and good. You know, the government saying that people with mortgages, I heard in some places, you know, we're going to give you holidays so that you don't have to pay your mortgage. And that's good for homeowners, but people that live in rented accommodation, living from paycheck to paycheck, must be quite worrying. And there must be a lot of these people that are working at these lower league clubs. I do hope the FA is going to, you know, send some money down. And another good idea I heard was maybe clubs in the Premiership and the clubs in the Championship could maybe look at teams lower down and do something like adopt a club. And maybe have a number, and which they can donate to a club to help them out in these times if they need it.
Stan, sorry, Andrew. Stan, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it's in that nice dream world that I was talking about. But being realistic, look at Arsenal. Let's take the club that we love. You know, we're a club that's owned by a very rich American individual who's got, I don't know, 8 sports clubs, none of which are playing now. Where is it in his interests, anyway, to support football in England? You know, he's got 7 or 8 clubs in the United States. He's got 1 club in England. Why on earth would he? And he never gives any money to the club. He runs it as a non-profit organisation. As a self-sustaining model. Why on earth would he want to help the owners at Manchester City? You know, if you look through our league, it's the owners of Premier League clubs are mercenaries, and it's a very expensive business. I don't think they'll have any interest in helping anyone bar themselves. I think that's it. And I think when we're talking about these football clubs, Andrew, you're right. It's a very sad situation. And as you mentioned, Stan, the guy who cuts the grass, the person who does the laundry. But we're faced with an incredibly unusual situation that is going to affect everybody. You know, who is going to be working? The whole events business has gone. We're told by our Prime Minister not to go to pubs, restaurants. That whole business industry is gone. You know, people, every service industry you can think of, people are not working, so they're not going to spend money on plumbers, on decorators, on builders. It's all gone. We are in an incredibly difficult situation. And it in the real world, it's really, you know, it's a nice thought to say that these clubs are going to help out. But I just don't see why they would want to. They're not English.
But I would just say that, you know, something like, you know, all of the Premiership chairmen or the owners, they usually meet up for meetings and they usually take votes on things. And maybe if you had a figure, say £100,000, which obviously to me and you, everyday people, that's a lot of money. But to Premier League clubs and maybe a Championship club, probably not a lot of money. But to clubs in maybe like the 2nd and 3rd division, it could probably help them out. I'd like to think that if they do have meetings and something like that is raised, that owners of people like Man City, like you say, or even our owner who don't care, they'll probably would get outvoted by, you know.
But
maybe
by who? Tell me a club that is going to help.
It's just something come throwing out there. Do you know what I mean? But I know what you're saying. It's a perfect world.
I know it's an idea, but I'm just saying I don't see any club. If you look through the profit and loss of all the Premier League clubs, no one's making a fortune. None of them, you know, and I just don't see that. I mean, for me, the players, imagine how much they make a big thing of that they donate 1 day's wages a year to help local nurses or whatever. Do you remember that? That's something they do. It's a thing. 1 day's wages, you know. They're the rich ones, especially the Premier League. You know, players like Mesut Ozil. Oh, let's not use him because we always use him. And no, but we always do.
I do. I appreciate it. Go on.
But he's at the top end. So they take an average Arsenal player who's earning £100,000 a week. Now that's more in a week than it's 3 times the average annual salary here. That's where this is such a it's so wrong. maybe that, in a month's time, I mean, we're joking about it now, but in 6 weeks, 8 weeks time, when most people in this country and across the world haven't earned any money because there's no income coming in, they've got no money to spend on food and all the things. There's not going to be a lot of people who are looking at Mesut Ozil and these footballers with any hero worship. I think we're in for a real tough time in a month, 6 weeks time. If people haven't earned any money, people will get very angry.
Yeah, the best case scenarios that I'm hearing is like maybe 12 weeks things might settle down a little bit, maybe. And as far as all these different ways of settling the leagues, whatever you say has a butterfly effect. You want to do the season later into December and January, and we're still working on this season. Meanwhile, we'd have to cancel the FA Cup, and that hurts these bottom teams that Stan's talking about too. They rely on the FA Cup for a lot of money. So it has to be figured out as best as you can. And if they can't fix this before the start of the next Premier League season, they got to suspend it. They got to suspend this. Cancel the season if they can't fix it. You can't carry it on into the fall.
The worst thing is that whenever you come up with a problem, when you think about this, it's like an onion. I mean, there's so many layers to it. You start thinking all the knock-on effects it has to so many different things, and I mean, all the businesses that are in these local towns that rely on those matches and for their business as well, and the suppliers to the football clubs and the people that deliver these. The people that do all the snacks and it just goes on and on and on. So that's why I don't want to go into it too much, because it is quite depressing. And I just hope that there's some kind of rescue package to help these teams. And I know that a lot of the Premier League teams don't manage their money very well, and they're not very well off either. So I think it's going to have to be a directive from either the Premier League or FIFA or UEFA or something to say that a certain percentage of certain monies that the clubs are getting, rather than giving it back to
let me give
these
you
other big corporations, are going to have
just
to
make it
down.
worse. When you sell this money that they're getting, do you think Sky TV, BT Sport, Amazon are going to want to pay?
Do you know what? That's something
I'm
else.
sure they don't pay this 700 million up front at the start of the season. I'm sure they do it in installments. And it's a bit like talking to a guy today who's just had to shut his pub, and he said, he's quite upfront. He said, I've had to lay off all the staff. It was only 4. He said, I had to lay off 4 staff. And he said, I am going to not pay. I'm going to pay me local suppliers, me butcher and me fishmonger, in case I have to open again. He said, I'm not going to pay the government. I'm not going to pay any VAT. I'm not going to pay this. And that's sort of, where we are with this thing, is that, the Sky, BT are not going to, if they're paying once a month for football, if they're paying like 20 million or 100 million a month for their football, do you think they're going to say, well, we'll pay them first? Of course they're not. They've not got a product to sell. So
the clubs have had their money.
The clubs are all in trouble. Arsenal are in trouble. Everyone's in trouble. It's the best we can hope for is that they say that hot weather might just wipe out this virus for now until next winter. And we can all get back on an even keel and work on maybe getting some kind of vaccination, some kind of antidote to this, so that if it happens again, we're prepared for it. Because we're not prepared, and we're in a really, really difficult situation for the next.
I know.
I did see some positive news yesterday. I saw a tweet where they basically were saying that all of the people that were in the hospitals at Wuhan, where this all started from, they've all been sent home now, and they're taking down all of the temporary hospitals that they put up. And they reckon that in and around that area, which was like the epicenter, that the coronavirus seems to be going away. I don't know what the right phrase is, right? So if that's the case, maybe we've got like another couple of weeks. We've not quite reached the peak yet, and then maybe it will start come down like it is in Wuhan. Hopefully,
I think so.
I think we're a month away from it getting. I think we're a month away from it, or at least a month away from it probably hitting the worst, before we can start seeing it go down.
They said 10 to 14 weeks. We're going to get the peak in the UK.
I mean, when did it start in Wuhan? It was like October last year, September, October last year, wasn't it, that they had first cases? Or am I making that up?
I think it was towards the end of the last year, yeah.
I don't know.
So we're, it's a 3-4 month minimum thing, I think, it's... Oh, depressing,
Apparently,
eh?
Tony Turner said that the Cronkies are giving money to some of the support staff at Denver Nuggets and Colorado Avalanche. So he's showing a little bit of
Oh, how
humility there, if I
sweet.
do.
I'm not saying
What?
he won't give money. I'm not saying, look, I'm not in the anti-Cronky brigade. I don't, I've always said my line's always been really clear on our ownership. I would love our club to be owned by somebody who's as passionate about the club as I am. That's it. That's bottom line for me. That's it. This fella runs it on a self-sustaining model. Got no issue with that. I think that's the way that football should be done. You try and get the best players, you get the best coach, and you build your success, and then you can buy better players. I like that. I'm not in the anti-Cronky brigade. I don't particularly like him, but I don't know him, and I'm really pleased his son seems to be showing a bit of interest in our football club. I'm sure as a man he will want to look after the employees of his business. That's human nature. I've run my own business for a long time. You want to look after your employees. They're number one. You hate it when you can't find the money to pay someone at the end of the week. I tell you have sleepless nights. Now maybe his world's a little bit different from mine. But I'm sure he will try to look after people. But if he's then asked to go and give some money to Burnley, or not to Burnley, but to Darlington, or to, he's going to go, well, why? I've got enough problems here in my business. I'm not a charity, and that's how I can't see whoever vote for it. He can say no.
It'd have to be a directive, wouldn't it, though, Darren? It'd have to be a directive from people.
Who can direct a foreign owner? Who can direct him to give money?
Premier League.
How can anyone? What did the Premier League say? You haven't got any money and you've got to give it to somebody else.
No, it just have to be a certain percent. I'm not saying I know the answers. I'm not that clever, so I don't know. But whether there will be some kind of percentage of, I don't know, they're going to have to pay some money back because what you said earlier, Darren, about Sky. That Sky have paid for the season. All the clubs have had that money and they've probably spent it already. But they're going to ask for it back. So that's 37 million apparently that Arsenal have had and all the Premier League clubs have had that they're going to have to pay back potentially because of what the.
Don't you get the money at the end of the year once they've done all once they've done all the television, having time and TV, they change it all, don't they? Apparently
they've had it. That's what I've heard on one of the BBC podcasts I was listening to today. So
if they don't give any back, because in case the games don't finish, then the money they get next time will probably be smaller because they'll take that into consideration.
Yeah. But the problem is that Sky are obviously going to be losing a hell of a lot of subscribers. They're going to be cancelling their Sky Sports because there's nothing on there to watch. And if they do end up losing money and not getting it back, Sky, then they're obviously going to be in serious trouble as well. And they could potentially go under. So it just goes, like I said, it's peeling off an onion and it's getting layer after layer of different problems coming up all the time. And the same's going to happen with subscribers all across the world, isn't it?
Just one point as well. And this, look, my heart bleeds Arsenal. I'm a football fan. I say this many times. I wasn't brought up religious, but my dad took me to Highbury every couple of times a season when I was a kid. And it's been part of my life. I love football. I can't imagine my life without football. But in what's happening in the world at the moment, I just want to say it's only football. Businesses will go under. Some players will have to go and find other work. Some supporters, can't afford to go to football now because they haven't got a job. There's it could be a shortage of food. There could be, there could be riots, anarchy. We're in a real strange situation where people will not have any income for possibly 2 or 3 months.
Yeah,
football's right down the bottom of the list of priorities.
That's the whole point of what I was saying earlier. It's not the actual football not being played. It's the people that are going to be affected by it that I was worried about, and in the lower leagues. So, when I'm only talking about that sort of side of things because it's a football podcast, but it's the people involved in those clubs that I'm more concerned about. Because at the end of the day, the players in those leagues, even in like League One, League Two, they're on about 20 grand a year, 25 grand a year. A lot of those players, and if they're not playing, they don't get paid. And all the people involved in that club don't get paid, and that's the angle I was coming at from Darren. But I only sort of talked about that because obviously the football basis of it. But it's all those types of people that are not going to be earning money during this period of time. It's a concern because not only have they got the virus to worry about, but when you get into that situation, and I've been there myself, and you're not earning money and you can't support your family, then you're all talking about like the mental illness side of things, which is a big killer in itself, and poverty is a big killer in itself as well across the country. When you're talking about families that aren't, you're not able to feed them, and if you can't pay your rent and you've got nowhere to live, it's an issue, isn't it? So I'm not, like I said, I didn't want to go down that route because we're not that kind of serious podcast, but it does concern me that this is all going to be happening and it's going to be real within a very short space of time. Glenn, you're on mute, I think. Probably.
Fuck. How about now? Can you hear me? Yeah,
No, you're still on mute.
You can
hear me. Okay. So my son came busting in before. Listen, I don't want to get serious either, but just two quick things. Perhaps as far as talking about regular people with this thing, perhaps the government can raise, I don't know what you call it in the UK, unemployment insurance, where you can give people a little bit more money, because here they don't give you much. They give you a pittance with unemployment insurance. And the other thing is, I don't know how it is in the UK, but here in America, a team owner has to be approved where they have enough money where if there's a crisis, everything's not going to friggin' blow up. I don't know if owners have to be approved in the UK or not. That's the only two serious things I'm going to say.
Yeah,
they do have that. I can't remember what it's called, Glenn, but they have to prove that, like you say, if there's a crisis, that the owner can, can bail it out or whatever.
Yeah, it's it is something called the fit and proper owners.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
But there's some, some people have got through on that, which have never ended up are in prison now. Okay,
they've already been in prison before.
Have you ever been to get a? I remember going back in the day. I was in the States, living in the States, and I went to get my driving license. And it was the first bit was the technical bit, like the multiple choice. And I'm a young Englishman. I've got no idea of the rules. So and I only wanted an ID. So it said California's driving license, which would just be cool. But it also enabled me to go and have a drink, in a bar. So I wanted one. And I went there and I remember filling this multiple choice and giving it over the counter. And the wonderful woman behind us said, "Well, you got that one wrong, that one wrong. Try D, try C, try D. Now, there you really want to try E, and they gave me the answers. That's what the fit and proper persons test for football owners is like. Yeah. The Premier League will go, oh, you're fucking rich. What do you want to do? Put A here, B there, C there. That's football. Yeah.
Oh my!
Well, I don't know if you guys heard a podcast that did a couple of. I think it was not the last one, the one before, when I did it pretty much on my own. And I said at the end, the one idea I had, instead of the financial fair play system, not instead of it, but when these big, individuals or companies want to go and buy a club, any club at any level, what they should have to do is put some money in like a sort of like a trust fund type thing. I don't know what to call it, but enough money to keep that club going for 2 seasons, a minimum, if they just decide to fuck off. And that has to be paid up front and put to one side so that it covers all the running of the club and all the wages and everything for 2 full seasons. It would put people off buying clubs because they think, oh God, I don't want to do that. And B, it would obviously safeguard the future of those clubs for the 2 seasons if they just decided they got bored and fucked off, or they run out of money like a lot of the owners of lower league clubs do. But if they had to pay that up front, they don't get it back. It's like a non-refundable deposit type of thing. Then it would put a lot of these people off buying the club in the first place.
But it goes against the ethos of football, though, doesn't it? You're just thinking big clubs going down, but think about the success stories of people like Eddie Howe's Bournemouth. They've come up on a shoestring. They're running their club. They've been managed well. They're managed properly. They've worked their way up through the divisions, and now they're trying to sustain 3 or 4 years in the Premier League. That's what football's all about. We're just thinking big clubs. If somebody comes to buy us Newcastle, we want them to put in a non-refundable deposit. So I understand, but it goes away from the ethos of how football should be.
What you just said, though. Sorry to break. What you just said, it backs up my argument perfectly, though, Darren, because if Bournemouth go down, they're fucked. Because 85% of their income is on players' wages now. 85% of Bournemouth's income goes on wages. If they go down and don't get back up again after the parachute payments finish, that club's fucked if they can't sell all those players. So if they went bust after getting relegated, because the chances are they've got a very strong chance of getting relegated this season, and if they did, then that situation that would offer all the fans of that club a little bit of comfort that they are secure for 2 seasons minimum. Because
but you say what I'm talking about is
they could go under. They could go
that
under.
owner has scrimped and scraped and worked his way up, managing that club properly to get them into the Premier League. Where does he find another 200 million to put in it for a non-refundable deposit?
It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you say that club's a really well managed run club, but if they were, why have they got themselves into a situation where 85% of their income?
Got small ground, Premier League football
goes on player wages. That's poor management.
You know what, Andrew? You could argue that Arsenal did the same thing. You see, our salary, right? You know, they're just lucky that they're one of the biggest clubs in the world. So I don't know. What's the parachute payment? 25 million? I guess that really can't cover everything.
No, not at all. Anyway, let's get off that subject and sort of move on because it's not good, is it? It's not good at all. Let's have a quick whiz through. Tony Turner, is Glenn on mute a bad thing? No, probably not. No.
Tony Turner, are you talking to my wife, Tony?
FIFA had a revenue of 4.6 billion in 2018, so they can help out the lower league teams. Well, exactly. Very good point, and that's true. Yeah. So, anyway, I think we've done pretty much an hour, which is a lot longer than I thought we were going to do without football to talk about. So we ain't done too bad. But
so I never got to tell this. I never got to tell the story of seeing the Arsenal mascot naked.
Oh, wait.
Go on.
I want to hear that. I want to hear that.
You have my undivided attention, Darren.
There isn't. Sadly, it's one of those things I can't undo now. You know, in my head is that I was in the Arsenal changing room. I know it sounds right, but I was doing a tour with Mark Brindell, who's the Arsenal supporters liaison officer. Great bloke, Mark, and he was giving me a little tour around the bits that you can't see normally on the on the tour. And I was not in the dressing room. We were in a dressing room behind the dressing room, and in there there was Gunnosaurus. You know, he was there, and then he took his clothes off, took his hat off, took his towel off, and got naked. And it's sort of a spoiled it for me now.
Oh my God!
And he's a lovely old boy, but he's not going to win any races.
Back to ask you, like, who's actually in there? Is it a young man? Is it an older guy?
Let's just say this: if this he wants to be self-isolated.
Is it always the same bloke? Always.
It's always the same bloke. He's done it from day one. Yeah, I met him. I chatted to him. He was a really top bloke. Really, really top bloke. But
cool.
Unless that's changed. That was 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. But I watched Gunnosaurus get naked, and it wasn't. You know, my eyes were bleeding. The joy is gone. I can't look at him the same now.
When I
see him in goal at the Emirates at half time, you know, I'm thinking, slow down, old boy.
I saw him get knocked over.
Yeah.
He got a ball in the face when at the Emirates Cup. He got the ball in the face at the Emirates Cup and knocked him flying.
Next time I'm on, I'll try and get hold of Mark and find out what his name is, because I feel rude that we're talking about him.
Definitely get him on the show. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be amazing. But, well, yeah, I've got a big announcement for next week's show. It's really exciting. The last few weeks I've had dialogue over Twitter with Adrian Clark, and he lives about a mile away from me.
Right.
I can't believe it. And next week he's coming to my house and he's going to do a show with me. Special Mesa Island discs. So that's going to be really exciting. So I'm going to have to start doing some dusting and cleaning up.
Removing the dead bodies.
No, I can't. I can't believe he when he messaged back initially and he said that I only live just down the road from you. I thought, oh wow. So yeah, that's going to be really really nice. So Adrian Clark obviously from the analysis side of things, works obviously for Arsenal. Used to play for Arsenal, of course. So yeah, it's going to be a really
And
good
now
show
he
next
hasn't got
week.
a job.
No, I know. This is just oh God,
So he's going
that's
around
another
people's-
layer of the onion.
He's going around people's houses now.
But
He'll give you a quote for something.
He was really.
You'll be gutted when he sits down and pulls out a Bible.
But it also means that from next week onwards, obviously without the football, I'm going to be doing these Mesut Island Discs shows, which I thought was quite good fun when you were on it, weren't you, Darren?
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, good fun.
So anyone that's watching or listening who wants to take part in any upcoming Mesut Island Discs shows, the last one we did is obviously still online, so you can watch it. Drop me a line, drop me a DM on Twitter, or email the show, which is fromdialsquaretoware@gmail.com.
Email?
And we can...
Email? Why don't you just have them fax you?
That's too cool. That's too cool.
It was telex before fax.
Telex, yeah. Or send me a telegram in the post. So get in touch, because I want to start doing those Mesut Island Disc shows in the forthcoming weeks. A bit of good fun. Keep us going throughout this period of time without football. So anyway, thanks ever so much for you guys coming on board.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew, Stan, Darren. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of
Glenn,
fun.
lovely to meet you, Glenn. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And Dan, thank you also.
Yeah, this has been great. Give us a like before you leave. And
can I leave? Or are you going to do another? Are you going to do another 10-minute story?
Yeah, you give us a like as well. That'd be quite nice. And if you're listening to the audio version of this show, then please
then I was a lot slimmer.
Rate and review. That'd be great. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. And
you made me snort.
Take care. Good night.
Cheers, Andrew.
All right then. I'll